Yo, this hot, this the spot, there it is, pod.com. We're interviewing the best comedians, so tune in quick and get your ears receiving them. We talking about life and life to stream right to you, from the microphone right to your home, dude. Side note, this might get embarrassing, but no, don't sweat, yo, cause there it is.
Welcome to the There It Is podcast, a comedy podcast to help you find your inspiration. I'm your host, Jason Farr. Let's do this. Thanks so much for joining us. Great episode for you today. Also, big thanks to Molly McDonald and also the Raleigh Comedy Festival for supporting There It Is. People who appreciate the newsletter and monthly festival submission guide tend to support us, which is great. We don't have those things behind a paywall, and we're not paid by the fest to get listed. So if you want to support us because you appreciate those things, please do. You can by going to thereitispod.com and clicking on the support link. We thoroughly appreciate it. Today's guest is Ophira Eisenberg, and what a great get. You know her from The Moth, Ask Me Another on NPR. She's an author, a stand-up. She's actually taping a special at the Comedy Cellar on November 9th. She's taping at 5 and 7 p.m. So you have two opportunities to see her tape her special. We have links in the description for you to get tickets, so go do that. And we have a great talk together. We talk about comedy and her life and coming from Canada. It's really fun. We get into a lot of really good stuff. So let's just get right into it. Here's my chat with Ophira Eisenberg. So awesome having you on the podcast, Ophira. Thanks for doing this.
Pleasure. Finally made it happen. Woo!
Yeah.
Woo!
So you would record Ask Me Another at the Bell House, which is in the neighborhood for me and my wife. So we've been to a taping or two over there back in the day when you all were doing that.
Yeah.
So I've been a fan for a long time. You started your career in Canada because that's where you're from, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Grew up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah, I know you did a lot of acting, and you did acting in Canada, but I don't know what came first. Was it stand-up or acting?
So, I mean, I think you're being very kind when you say I did a lot of acting.
You have several credits.
So I have several credits, but I never went. I mean, I just say that because I know people who went to theater school, and did Shakespeare plays and did, all kinds of classic plays and then Broadway and maybe or off Broadway. And so I think I started as a writer. Like if I were to really go back and just go, what was I doing? It was not performance, it was writing. I always loved writing. And then somewhere along the line, I decided to try stand-up. Pretty much a couple of years out of university or college, if whatever you want to call it. And I decided to try stand-up, which was a little shorter form than what the kind of stuff I had been writing. And I wasn't writing for any purpose. I was just writing. I just liked the creative writing field. I guess I thought I was going to be an academic, which is a very writing-based kind of job, but that did not work out. And then I took stand-up and I just loved it. And I think a lot of what I was writing was comedic or was in that edge. And so I had to really learn how to become shorter.
Yeah, you go from the
over
long
time,
form
but when you start, it doesn't. I mean, like when you start, it does. I'm going to say it doesn't matter what you do. It totally matters what you do, but it doesn't matter in a way because you're still figuring it out.
You're figuring it all out. Yeah. I was wondering when the writing came in the fold. So it is good to know that it was really the first thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting that your initial thing, I think a lot of people experience this is. You want to go in the academia, that seems like the safe security direction.
Yes.
And that doesn't work out. And so going into the world of
riskiest side.
Right. When because I had that experience when I got out of college. I said, well, I have a degree in mass communication. I'm going to go into radio because that's a job. Acting is not as secure, blah, blah, blah. I don't think I'd changed too much about my life, but at the same time, I probably should have just gone for acting a little harder sooner. Did you feel that when the academia route didn't pan out, did you go, why didn't I just do this other stuff that I was good at first?
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say that I hear what you're saying. I think that doing stand up and writing just as, and then obviously a day job to keep that afloat, because guess what? Didn't come from money and didn't get a trust fund and didn't get an apartment gifted to me just because I exist. I had to pay for all those things.
Yeah.
And so that was like enough. So I wish I would have, in hindsight, it's like not like we can't go out and take an acting class now, but it's very different, right? It's just a very different kind of thing. And I know people that do it. A matter of fact, I just ran into this guy, very different life, lives outside of Minneapolis, and he has had a career in the arts in different forms. And he was saying that he was taking an acting class right now because he's going to audition for some community theater and just do it because he's always wanted to. And I was like, I love that. I love that. So that's a different kind of feeling than like, I'm going to be, whatever, starring in movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish I would have done more. I just wish I would have done more classes. I took a million classes. Yet I wish I would have done more because I think the avenue to absorb it and feel like you can fail and all of that good stuff happens in that moment. And it's harder to get back to that because life gets in the way.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
No life
I'm so
goes
pragmatic.
Perfectly.
I'm so
That
pragmatic
too.
for someone who my world is just completely ridiculous. I am the most pragmatic version of an artist.
Do you think that came from how you were coming along since you weren't originally thinking of going into the entertainment field?
No, I think I came into this world pragmatic. I do. I just think it's who I am and it's how it's, what it is. Honestly, if I were to add a psychological edge to it, I think it's being a control freak. That makes you a big pragmatic person because you're just sort of like this and this, and this is what I can control,
Yeah. And do you think that helped your career progression, that you were being so pragmatic or that you were naturally
can't tell.
So
I would like to say so, but can't tell because I feel like I look at other people who are a little bit more whimsical and a little bit like, I don't know, maybe it's an optimism, the kind of thing, like, just follow what falls, and I just go, God, that must be so freeing. You must free up a lot of space for your creativity. Except for I know, and then I mean, I just love structure, which is maybe because I have a structureless life, so I have to create it.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like, and maybe this is a stereotype, I feel like there are a lot of comedians and actors well, maybe a lot of actors have structure, but a lot of comedians, I feel like, do not have structure.
Yeah.
But it would benefit them to have it.
Yeah. I do think I think of people that I know in the business that are working very hard, and I feel like unless they're, they have a job like they're on set or something like that, which will provide them structure, that just because you have to be somewhere and you're going to be somewhere for a quantity of time. But a lot of people I know that are successful, I mean, now I think what is expected of you is very different, but they are, let's just say performing at night and then they are getting home and they are hitting their computer and they're editing their clips and they're getting them out the next morning to feed the social media beast, which is driving their career. So I think that's just a whole new end of how you structure your time.
Yeah. No, that is the thing now, right?
That's totally the thing.
There are a couple of 100% that I've had on the podcast or tried to get on the podcast, and it can be tough to get these comics on the rise on the podcast because they are going through the machine. And
so much to do. Yeah. So much to do. Oh yeah. Totally. Yeah, it's crazy. Totally crazy.
Yeah, whether it's my manager sent me a few dates, so now I have to leave. Like out of nowhere, I have to leave town.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been traveling like crazy this month, and I will continue to for the next few weeks because I'm gearing up to record a special. And you think like I have a family, so when I'm here, my time is divided in a very specific way. And there's just no time. Like I'm in survival mode just all the time.
Yeah.
And then I leave and I think, oh, now I'm going to have these swaths of time. But then you're just in survival mode when you're truly, I mean, I was just doing it. And if you are doing shows, different shows, going from place to place every night, which is what I was doing on this little mini tour. They were all within an hour or 2 hours, but you're getting up going like, how do I get coffee? How do I get food? How do I get a shower? Am I getting in a quick workout? Da, da, da. Like you're just going. Okay, show. Okay, and then finish show. How do I get food? How do I get this?
Yeah, how do people have structure on the road?
Brutal. You gotta, and it's a mind trick. Like you have to work at it. So I do. I am not, I wish I just smoked some weed and chilled out and didn't care, or maybe was working at a level where people are delivering me sandwiches. I don't even know anyone really that has that kind of life.
But yeah, I mean, you would have to have a Marriott Bonvoy account where you know where the workout space is, so you know you can always work out at 10 a.m. or whatever, like.
But then you go to some, someone books you for some theater, some events, some this, some that, and they have their, just with hotels, they have their own hotel that they're getting a kickback with. So you got to stay there. And all of a sudden you're at some weird Best Western because that's the only game in town because it's,
it's
whatever.
a different enough situation that you're not used to. Yeah, that'd be tough.
Yeah. So it's such a mind trick. And I make these aspirational to-do lists. Someone was telling me that I have to stop looking at my to-do lists as to-do lists because they can be a little demoralizing when the things just keep on the to-do list and they don't get done. And then eventually kind of what happens is they go away and sometimes they're important.
Yeah.
And
because
you just
stuff
don't
gets
do
added
them.
every day. And then there are things that there's like a backlog, right? And we're not
it just
computers.
falls apart.
And it's a sheet of paper to-do list. It's not necessarily a Google sheet. So, there's not this whole
paper. I have to have it on paper. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the system created, there is not a system there that allows you to keep up with the backlog. Like, oh, I still got to do this. Cause I do the same thing where I'm like just writing in a notebook. It's like, all right, here's what I got to do. And then I'll find that notebook and then go, wait a second, I didn't do this.
Oh yeah. And
I gotta
at
do
one
this.
point that felt very important.
Yeah.
And then it just doesn't get done and it loses its importance to you. But it might have been important in the real world the whole time.
Or would have been beneficial somehow. Like there are things with this podcast that I'm like, oh, I should really update these things on the website, but it's so tedious and then more pressing things are coming up. So it's like that just keeps getting put on the back burner.
Exactly.
No, that's tough.
So when you're always just putting out fires, I mean, I called it survival mode, but it's sort of like, putting out fire. And so someone told me that you do not look at it as a to-do list. It is called, it was just like a
to-do list?
It was just sort of like a, you just look at it as this is a whole bunch of things you'd like to do, but don't see it as something like, it's just like this is a dynamic list of some things you want to do when you get to it. And then there is the thing which I just laugh at. I'm like, whose life is that? Where it's like only try to do 3 things a day. Like that is the most you can do, 3 things.
Yeah. Oof, I don't know. I mean, I am still trying to develop a way to manage it so that I feel like I'm not just behind all the time. And,
I hear you.
Part of it is just like figuring out a good routine for myself, but social media gets in the way and whatever life thing going on gets in the way, or just like wherever your head is because of where life is.
I know.
Right. Yeah.
I know. Sometimes it's hard to just be like, hey, guess what? I have to hit the ground running 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days. Sometimes I wake up and I'm just a little bit slower. I get my kid off to school in the morning and then I'm just a little bit slower to like really just dig in. And maybe it's 10:30 a.m. And I feel like I've lost for the week. I'm like, well, I
the same.
That's it. It's over for me.
And it's it can be such a defeating feeling. Right? Like then you're like, I'll never get it done. I'll never start working out. I'll never lose this weight. I'll never, like that's what goes in my mind. And a friend, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, so I'm sorry, listeners who've heard me repeat it a couple times, but a friend and previous guest of the podcast was talking about, instead of calling it a to-do list, she calls it a to-da list.
Ta-da, like
yeah,
ta-da.
right. And she doesn't write out the things that need to be done. When she gets them done, then she writes it down. So the list,
but then she has to carry it in her head.
that is the issue for me, because then I still need to have some place that is going to be a reminder of like, here are your things that need to get done.
Oh, yes.
But part of the problem for me is that, like, I wish it was just one place that wasn't in my face that I could go to. It's like, okay, what's next? And then I could go there and look at it. But my thing is, I've left a Instagram message unread so I can get back to it later. I've left emails unread. I've left text messages unread.
You're singing my song.
And then I've got the lists, you know what I mean? So it's
all right.
It's a lot all over the place.
I forget who wrote this book, but it was one of those time management business books that was a bestseller. And I believe it is actually called Getting It Done or Getting Things Done. But I think it's called Getting It Done. And it's just one of these, it's the Dale Carnegie kind of version of a best-selling business book. But did I read it? Yes. 15 years ago. I don't know if it's had an update, but it needs one, because one of the major, like, chapter 1 is basically, if you have more than one quote unquote inbox, your life is a mess.
Yeah, it is.
And but we live in a world now where, I don't even have this little glass box of a phone has messages coming at me from 7 different things.
Yeah.
Now a lot of people are like, are you on WhatsApp? I'm like, don't do this to me.
No, that's the thing.
One more thing that I'm not getting back to.
And I'm like, we all live in the same country. We don't need to be on WhatsApp together.
Yeah. And so things just go by the wayside.
Yeah. No, it's so easy to miss. You got the Slacks. My Slack app, for whatever reason, just doesn't want to give me notifications whenever they come in. So I miss those. And then there's the WhatsApp. And I don't know about you, but it is really, maybe anxiety is too strong of a word, but I'll use it, anxiety inducing for me to see the notification.
I hate it.
I can't see the notifications.
No, it like literally just, I think it disrupts the pattern of your brain.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're just like doing this, do this, do this. And then it's like, it stabs it. It stabs you. So, okay, you know what? Where do you have any software developers in your mix?
I'm sure I do and just forgot.
Okay, this is what we need. We need someone, third-party app. I need someone to design a third-party app where I put in my Gmail credentials, my Instagram Messenger, my WhatsApp, my Slack, and it aggregates all the messages into one place.
Oh, nice.
Right?
That would be great. And then it's just like, you just go to that one app and it's like, here's your inbox.
Yes.
And I don't know if you have multiple email addresses, because I've got
Of course I do.
Yeah. You've got the personal one. I've got the podcast one. You got the work one. And those are, like, I guess, important. But then there's Instagram. There's the personal Instagram. There's the podcast Instagram. There are a couple of team Instagrams. There's like,
and every once in a while I'll get a request on Instagram, and I'm like, that's the last place I look, and it will be for like a job that I missed, and I'm like, well, there was some income that I'm not going to have.
No, I talked to a singer on the podcast about that, about how, like, her emails she's got like thousands of emails, and it's just like insurmountable at this point. And they're jobs that were messaged there. And I don't know if you have an email address listed on your website, but you at least have the contact page.
Yeah, just a contact page, the form.
That's the best. Wouldn't that be the best place for them to send work opportunities?
I know, just people do it whatever way. I mean, there is a trend for people just, especially with live shows or that are like other comics that are running live shows, they just go straight to Instagram and send you a message. And
Yeah.
sometimes you get it and sometimes
Yeah.
you don't. But the key to getting it to the person, I've noticed, is if it ends, obviously just the way Instagram works, if it ends up in the request, which is sort of buried unless you're always looking at that, it's because you both don't follow each other. So the
Right.
key is for them to follow you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I'm like, if you don't even want to follow me, why do you want to have me on your show? Like, wouldn't you follow me
Yeah.
if you want? Anyways, maybe everyone's just going full speed. Everyone is just going full speed.
That's exactly what it is. We're all like, and it's our brains are not made for taking in social media the way it's like I wonder what studies are going to be done in the future of just people who died at 40 just because our brains are going to explode from all the interaction with socials.
Good news. No studies are being done anymore.
Well, that's a fair point.
But I have a little joke about this, but I do think there's something to it, and I'm not going to tell you the joke because that would be weird, but I'll just tell you the points of it, which is, I'm a little obsessed. So I guess I'm squarely Generation X, Gen X. And so the work week that I grew up in, and I went into comedy full time a while ago, but I still had to have a lot of day jobs.
2000 or 2001 when you?
Yeah. I mean,
well, that's when you moved to New York City was 2001. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I lived in Toronto, there was a while when I didn't have to have a job. But then when I moved to New York, oh my God, I had to start back from the beginning. And so I had jobs for a very long time and in different things. I did a lot of retail, service industry. I was an IT person for a while. And so that was much more corporate. And everyone I knew in that moment who had a day job, especially in corporate America, they worked long hours. Everyone almost competed with each other as to who could stay at the office the longest. Like that made you a better employee. And I do think there's something amazing, genius about millennials and Gen Z that has said, we're not doing that.
Yes.
We're not doing that. That is no good for anyone. And there's like no meeting Fridays, like that's a thing that has happened. And then there's minimalist Mondays. And I just joke about the fact that there's also like, tap out Tuesdays and screw it Wednesdays and I can't work now Thursdays and,
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be a happier medium from what people were doing our generation and older of putting 100% into work. And I totally agree that just shouldn't be.
I think, well, it was garbage.
Like,
I don't think it actually, I think that was the point. Like it did not increase productivity. It was just burnout and weird stuff, but no one wants to be at the office at all. I mean, it is kind of funny to think of the idea of casual Fridays. I'm like, I believe Fridays are now, it's not just come in jeans. I think it's like, don't come at all.
Right. Yeah. like why make people do it?
I don't think people are going to work on a Friday.
I just really wish it was, for the office jobs, I really wish everything was just based on get your work done. Here's the project we're trying to get done. Just get it done. I don't care how many hours you work this week. You're going to get paid for getting the job done.
So I think that's supposed to be what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out nobody can get the job done.
Yeah.
So, unless they are pushed. Like I think so few people are self-starters like that.
Yeah, that's true.
I think there's a lot of need for external motivation and,
Sure.
So I mean, technically, we are in that world.
Yes, we are.
And we just complained about how we're not getting anything done because no one's holding our feet to the fire.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It is just like Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson who seem to have that kind of go get it attitude or something.
Maybe with
Taylor
like
Swift or
4,000 teams of people doing shit,
which is part of it. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, I've heard people like Seth Rogen or Judd Apatow talk about how lazy they are. Like they don't want to like go back to work. They're like, please continue to interview me. I would much rather this than having to go back to write or whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing.
Because it's grueling. I know someone, because I'm gearing up for this special, and someone said the obvious question, and it's a nice question, like, are you excited? And I was like, oh my God, no. Like, and I feel like, no, I don't know. I would love to meet someone that has a project out on the calendar that they are like, I can't wait to do that project. It feels like you're gearing up for it and you're focused, and there's all,
That's
but
true, yeah.
excitement is not one of them.
Yeah, because
Exciting
you're
is when
trying
it's
to
over.
figure it all out. Exactly, yeah. Is
And I was
when
like, that's such a sweet question, but this isn't a birthday party.
yeah. Yeah, it's right.
So
Because like leading up to it, there's so much work to do. So you're just
yeah.
thinking of, am I getting it all done so that I'm ready by
So
that
I'm
day?
ready. Yeah. Am I putting in the reps? Am I figuring out the jokes? Man, do I notice holes in my act right now that
Mm,
I've been like skating through as I've been working on this hour? I'm like, wow, this needs work. This needs more decent wording.
wow.
It's daunting. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so when you put together an hour, and I've never put together an hour in any sort of real way, where it's like us putting together a special.
yeah.
It's not like when a band is like, well, here are the best songs we have. Let's just put them on an album. I mean, you're thinking like, well, here's some great jokes. Oh, wait, we have to do all this. I have to like figure out all this other stuff about it to
Yeah. I
make it
mean,
work in a
I think plenty of people do. I mean, it's just like that. Do you want to make it like a whole thing that has transitions where we're moving from
Mhm.
one? Because people don't. I mean, you've seen tons of stand up, like people just, you move from one
Well,
topic to another, and maybe it
yeah.
doesn't have transitions. For my
And
brain,
they're also bad comics who have put out bad specials who obviously didn't put that much work into it.
yeah, I think there's a way to just do that where you're like, and now we're doing this, and hopefully the
Right.
laughs just carry you into a new
Right.
thought.
But you were
But
thinking more about the structure
the
and because
structure,
you're talking about like, oh, there are holes here that need to get
there's
fixed. And
holes. There's
yeah.
holes. Also, I think when I have a tendency to sometimes, if I can't figure out a piece of writing, I'll put it up on stage anyways, and I'll just sell the crap out of it.
Mhm.
And sometimes you feel like that somehow, you trick yourself, and hopefully you trick the audience too. But
Mhm.
now that I'm looking at it again, I'm like, I never wrote that line. Like I never figured out that part.
Oh
I just
yeah.
sort of like
And now
fudged
that it's a
it.
special, you have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you the kind of comic who, when you're on stage in those moments where you're like, oh, this doesn't have a strong enough punchline or
Yeah.
tag, are you the kind of comic that when you're on stage telling it, it backs you into a corner that maybe helps you write the idea, finish it off?
Occasionally. I think the general, so I don't think it's so much based on me. I think it's based on the audience. And a
Mm,
very common, maybe it was Carlin who said this, but it is a common feeling that bad audiences help you edit, or like if you don't feel like the total love in the room, you're going to learn how to edit and shorten your jokes. You see all of the places where you're like, oh, got to get rid of that because we got to get faster to keep these people on the page. And
mhm.
good audiences help you write. So if you
Yeah.
have a audience that is just eating you up and they are loving it, that's where you feel the freedom to take risks because you
Mm,
feel like, if I fall, they're gonna be fine. We're gonna keep booing me up. But if you have an audience that's not into you, you don't like taking risks feels riskier. You feel
yeah.
much more vulnerable. You're like, how do I get you on my page?
Mm-hmm.
And so
It's
I find
understandable.
like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this long joke, they're not loving it. So I'm going to figure out a real quick way to make it this like way shorter.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, oh, I guess it should have been shorter anyways. And then you get in front of an audience that loves you and you're like, oh, I found all these more words. Yeah.
How do you realize when like, oh, this is a crowd that loves me, I can do that extra run on it?
I
Like,
mean,
do you
just by
just
listening to them.
you're just going off of that? It's not something from like, oh, there a bunch of them were wearing I Heart Ophira shirt. It's not
If it was that clear, yeah, I would love it. But no, it's just mostly, yeah, like, I overuse this word, but it's a vibe.
yeah,
It's a vibe. You're on the stage and you sort of go, oh, all right.
I can milk this a little
I
bit.
feel
Yeah.
it. I feel like the flow or what have you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, you have to
yeah.
be there too. Sometimes I I can, we're all in our heads, and sometimes I can work myself into a total frenzy and be shooting myself in the foot the second I get on that stage. I haven't even given
Right.
the audience a chance, and I think I'm going to fail or whatever, like I'm in my head. Or sometimes they're not the greatest audience for whatever reason. They're tired, they haven't gotten their food. I don't know. Like there's
Hmm.
gazillions of reasons. And you get on there with the killer mentality and that you're into it, and and it's such a psychological game.
Yeah. So how long did you do stand up in Canada before you moved to New York City?
I mean, I think for real, because I would say I had a bunch of false starts where I was trying it, but was I trying it? I was very afraid. I was very afraid to sort of give it a real go.
Mhm.
So the very first time I stepped on stage was actually in Vancouver,
Mhm.
and I did it a bunch of times in Vancouver, and there wasn't a ton of opportunity to do it, but my friends became other stand-ups, and I went to the club a lot. I went to this one club. It was called the Punchline, long gone, but I went to that club a lot and watched a lot. And they didn't have a huge rotation, so I would see a lot of the same people. And that just became like my social scene. How much did I get on stage? I don't quite remember. I think I tried to, but it wasn't, I didn't get on a lot. And then I decided that I really wanted to try.
Mhm.
And I moved to Toronto because there was just so much more opportunity.
Right.
And I think I just
Yeah.
wanted to get closer to where there was a scene. I mean, it's sort of funny because then Vancouver became what we call
Oh yeah.
Hollywood North. And it was starting a little bit, but I just wanted to do that live stand up. And I figured the way to do it was move to Toronto. And that's when I stuck my heels in and really tried to do it.
Hmm.
And I was there for about 4 years before I was like, now I should try to move to New York.
Okay. And what was that transition like?
Brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of the change of comedy pace or just trying to get into the scene and get seen and
Getting into the
known?
scene was hard because I mean, there's kind of an interesting thing about New York, and I was just talking to this woman who's a stand-up in Salt Lake
Uh-huh.
about move. She wants to move to New York, and I was like, yeah, you get infinitely more stage time than I imagine what you can get in Salt Lake, but you just have to commit. Like if you're gonna move here, you got to move here even if you're taking an apartment for, I don't know, 6 months and
Mhm.
just give it a shot because people are pretty open to new people, but nobody really wants to book you if you're just taking off again.
Mm.
Like you actually have to hang out
Mhm.
and get to know people and really be part of it because there's just too many people. So
Yeah.
if you're just being a tourist, like no one, they're like, we've got so many deserving people here.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
don't need tourism.
Right.
But if you are really trying to be part of the scene and trying to make it go and you're in New York, and I mean, I always said the best thing to do if you have I guess, wherewithal and temperature for it is start your own show. Because if you start your own show, you get, which I did for years, you get the workout, of
Mhm.
course. So you have a show that you can depend on. All
Mhm.
stand-ups need shows. So
So
you'll immediately,
they'll reach out to you to
they'll
get on.
reach out to you. And usually people do trades.
Mhm.
And it's just a good way to get to know everybody.
That is smart.
And then also, I mean, from the empathy point of view, you get to understand what it is like to be a booker and a show producer, which is terrible
Mhm.
because everyone wants to take. I mean, that's pretty much it. Everyone wants to be booked on your show.
Mhm.
They get mad if they don't get booked on your show. I remember
Yeah.
just saying like people would be like, "Why can't I get booked on your show?" And I'm like, "My show is just for me and my friends. Like it's not even that great. I don't understand why you think it's important." But, everyone stand-ups just need stage time. So they're
Mhm.
like desperate for stage time. And, working with a bar or a venue can be tough because they don't
Yeah.
care. And
Yeah.
sometimes they're working against you because they're
Mhm.
just like, oh God, we just
It's
need
like
to
a
sell
hassle, a
drinks.
strange hassle for them to have an influx of audience members coming in to buy drinks. It's like, what?
I know. Well, there's never enough. It's never enough drinks being sold. Never
Right.
enough. Yeah. So it's just like all these different little ways that you learn about both sides of the business. So then when you approach a booker who's doing their own independent show, you could at least have a little bit like, I get
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. When
And then you show up, you've done zero promotion as the comic, and you get there and there's 5 people in the crowd, and you're like, really? It's like, oh, it's like, it isn't your job, but it is your job, but it isn't your job, but it is your
Right.
job. But,
Yeah, no one, it's your, that's such a good way to put it, of like, it isn't your job, but it is your job, but it isn't your job, but it is your
yeah,
job,
but you
because
can't blame the
this,
people
yeah, from
who
the
didn't do
improv
yours.
world,
Yeah.
that's the same thing,
Yeah.
where it's like, well, the theater should be promoting shows. It's like, yes, they should, but then you also have people paying attention to you that could find out about your shows. So it would behoove you to mention your shows.
Yeah, it would be great. We just don't live in that era. It would be
Yeah.
great if just every place had a built-in audience that you
Right.
just were fine. And I think some smaller, I'm speaking out of turn here because I don't know the facts, but I do think some smaller cities have that. Like
Yeah.
there's just a few shows that happen at a venue every week that people
Yeah.
they know it's going to be good. They don't really care who it is
It's
because
their
they're
night
just
out. So this is a
their
place
night
they've
out.
chosen. Yeah.
But
They like
here's
comedy.
just
There aren't a whole lot of options. So like, this is where I can
right.
go. But in New York, there are a
It's
million options.
competitive. It's
Yeah.
competitive. Yeah,
So when you
exactly.
started your show and we're establishing it, like, how did you get strong audiences?
I mean, this sounds wild, but I mean, sometimes we built a good show. So that's just the general things of like consistency and doing it for a while. But and then, building up a mailing list and all those normal things. But in the very beginning, we would bark people off the street.
Wow.
We would stand on the street an hour before the show and talk to every single person and invite them to come see a comedy show. And you know what?
Yeah.
A lot of times it worked.
Yeah.
A matter of fact, the long story of that is that's how I ended up meeting my husband. My child only exists because the Comedy Cellar was sold out, and we convinced these guys to come to our show. And one of them
wow.
is the person not exactly related to that exact incident, but that I ended up marrying.
Wow. So wait, you met somebody through someone you brought to the show. You didn't bark at your current husband.
We barked at my husband, the man who's now my husband, and his friend, and his 2 friends.
Oh, okay,
and they decided to come to the show.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's the upside.
I mean, it's like when people are like, how'd you meet? It's like on the street.
It's the new dating app. Barking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Barking to a comedy show. That would be you get 2 things out of it. Hey, aspiring comedians, you want to meet people and get audience? Get on Bark.
That's really cool. So how did that transpire? How long did it take for you and your husband now to have these sparks?
Pretty soon after that, because it ended up that he had a mutual friend who was a comic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's whatever. We're all around the same age. It's New York. Like there was obvious reasons why he went to NYU. He knew people in the NYU, in Tisch. Like there was just many ways that we would have people in common, as it turns out. And we did. And he was at that show actually because some girl dumped him. And so his 2 friends were trying to make him feel better and take him out. And so I think it was just weeks or months after that, our mutual friend said to me, do you want to go on a date with this guy? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then she went to him and she said, hey, do you want to go on a date with this girl? And he said, I am not dating a stand-up comedian or performer. Those people are crazy. It's going to just be drama all the time. And she was like, oh yeah, what else you have going on? And he was like, nothing. So we went on a date.
It's amazing. Well, that's a sweet story. And you wrote a book, and you've written a lot, obviously, but you wrote a book called Screw Everyone, Sleeping My Way to Monogamy.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did that book come out again?
2000 and I think that's right.
Yeah. And you've been married for how long now?
15 years.
Wow. So a couple years into the marriage,
yep.
you're the story is in the title, right? Sleeping my
Stories in
way.
exactly. Which,
Like,
when I got the agent, I didn't have a proposal. I had an agent and we were talking about writing that project. And at the time, memoirs, comedic memoirs coming from women were kind of trendy, I think. That was something that the marketplace was into. And I, as a person, was really not into a memoir written by a woman, being me, about dating and relationships, ending with a marriage. I just thought that was trite and stupid and traditional. And even though technically could tell my story that way, because that was the a linear line of how it could have happened. I didn't want to, and I was told by the agent, like, yeah, well, you just have to. She goes, that's the ending, and you just have to have faith, I guess, that the way you tell it is going to be different, and it won't feel like this super straightforward traditional story. So I was like, okay. So
and I mean, it wasn't like a conscious decision to sleep your way to monogamy. It's just that's
the
essentially
way.
what happened.
Yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's about how you were that experience that took you through a journey.
Took me through a journey. That's right. I dated a lot of people. I slept with a lot of people. I actually wasn't someone that cared about getting married or settling down or any of that. It was not, but I liked relationships and I liked being with people. I just didn't feel any need even to just make it like, I don't know. I just never
Official.
was I was never a
was just
girl
like,
that
we're
was like,
dating.
oh,
Yeah.
my wedding dress, my wedding day, my bridesmaids. None of that was of interest to me.
And did you even date anyone for a particularly long time
Oh
during
yeah,
that period?
I did people not in New York. I only dated people for shorter amounts. Did I even date anyone here for a year? Maybe on and off, but not
But in
really.
Canada, you had dated people for
Like when I in high school, I had a boyfriend out of high school. I mean, all these relationships were so fraught, but
Yeah.
I would, hang out with someone for a couple of years in Toronto. I had a boyfriend for a year and a bit. I had a few different boyfriends for like a year and a bit at a time or a year. There was some overlap. I'm not proud of that in hindsight, but that's true.
Yeah. I mean, it's completely different. But I just remember in my late 20s getting so frustrated with and I don't know how big of a thing it is outside of the Bible Belt, but I grew up in the Bible Belt.
Ah,
And so there was so much like always trying to set somebody up in a way that didn't feel organic.
right.
And I was just so tired of what the general attitude was or atmosphere around it. Like I could be at a party with a bunch of people and briefly meet someone, and it could literally just be a conversation of, oh, hey, I'm Jason, how do you know the birthday girl? And, oh, okay, cool, well, see you later. And then people would walk and be like, oh, Jason, you should go for her. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like that
I was
was
like, how does that even work? Yeah.
like, well, why should I? Like, and I just got so tired of that. But it gets in your head enough and got my head enough that I was like, maybe I should. Maybe.
Right.
So then you have maybe this is like the to-do list almost of like a backlog of people who are like ideas. Like
Yeah.
this is a person that's a possible person I could date. And I got so tired of that I just said, I'm gonna ask all of them out and just be done with it. And I didn't like ask them all out like in a week or something. It was just like over time. Like, I'm just gonna ask them all out. They're gonna say no. I'll have my answer, and I'm gonna just go on a sabbatical from dating.
Wow.
And that's exactly what I did. I asked them out. None of them said yes. And I was like, good. I have my answer. I'm not gonna date for a year. I'm not even gonna try to date. And it, I think, revolutionized my romantic life.
Wow. Interesting.
I,
All
I
right.
from that point on, I was just meeting people to meet them. I just
Yeah.
like if I met someone, it wasn't from a is this person someone I could potentially date? It was just, oh, here's another person I'm meeting, just a potential friend maybe, or someone I'll
Yeah.
just see at this party and never see again. And I was fine either way. And my mind didn't go beyond that. And I felt
Well,
everything felt more pure after that.
yeah, I do. I think people, and again, we live in a place, New York, that is people are very ambitious. I think people
Mhm.
are very type A and
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
goal oriented. And
Yeah.
I think that's hard to sell people on because they'll be like, no, if I'm taking out an hour of my life to go on this coffee, like I'm going to figure out if this is my soulmate or not,
Yeah.
and it goes that quickly because
Oh yeah.
and so I think having that more like organic approach about like, although, I say that and I think it's great. However, someone asked me for a business meeting.
Mhm.
And I was like, a business meeting? Do you understand what I do? I don't take business meetings. Like, what are we talking about? And so, but they're like marketing people and they wanted to talk about like marketing podcasts and talent. And so, but quickly into the meeting, I was like, oh no, you want accounts like, Walmart. Like, you don't want what I could afford or what I'm about. You want to have like a major, like they wanted so much money.
Mhm.
And I realized that about 6 minutes into our 30-minute talk. And I was a little bit like, what are we doing? And they said, well, I think it's good to have these meetings just to get to know people. And I was like, no,
Wow.
no, it is not. It is a waste of both of our times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I like it in the theater world.
That's a bizarre reason to take a meeting with someone. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, I can't even wrap my head around any of that.
Yeah, I know. Very weird. Anyways,
Very
but
strange. Very
people do
strange.
that. I think whatever. Maybe they said their job was very stressful, so it was like fun to talk to fun people. And I
Hmm.
was like, no, I don't have time. I don't want to be your fun person, but I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah, there seems to he needs like a networking sort of
Podcast.
event.
Get
Yeah,
a
or a
podcast.
podcast. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of podcasts, wasn't a podcast really. It was a show on
Yeah.
NPR, Ask Me Another, that you hosted for many years.
9.
Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, we got to see a taping of it, and it was such a well-oiled machine. And
Oh, nice. Thanks.
yeah, it was so good. It was such a tour de force almost to watch because there's music elements to it, and everything was just it was just clicking. I was amazed with how it all worked and came together, and it was such a fun show. Like the material was fun, but then watching it was very exciting. I mean, coming from the radio world,
Yeah.
I had not, even though I'd worked, did live radio, but I had not seen that much activity for
Right.
a
No.
radio
It's
show
part of
before.
what sunk the show. I
Oh
think it
yeah,
was it was expensive and very yeah, it was very labor intensive.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and Julian Villard was sitting in
Oh
when we
yeah.
saw,
Yeah.
and I was like, and there's mention that he was the fill-in, and I was like, how does he know the song so well? He's just filling in. Like I was like
So good.
amazed at how on top of it was. And they were like these funny songs. I was like, how are they doing this show? How are they putting this together? So how did that come about?
It was, I mean, I auditioned for it technically.
Okay.
So the original idea was this guy Eric Newsom, who's no longer at NPR. And he left like even a year into the inception of Ask Me Another, but it was sort of his brainchild,
Hmm.
and he liked pub trivia, or he liked the
Hmm.
energy of live pub trivia
Hmm.
and more pop culture general stuff. And he was trying to think of a way, since Wait Wait Don't Tell Me, I mean, NPR, it's very confusing. Public radio and NPR are two different things, and NPR
Yeah.
really only produces the news, and
Hmm.
then Wait Wait Don't Tell Me, but they don't produce like all the shows. So we were
Yeah.
just going to be their other show they produced.
Hmm.
And although Wait Wait Don't Tell Me is like their flagship, and that is news focused, obviously, they were thinking of like, oh, okay, people love trivia and clever stuff like that. Could we do it, but for a more word gamey, pop culture, younger
Hmm.
crowd? And
Hmm.
so that was, and the feeling. And then as they put it together, like, oh, maybe we could, we need some, it should be funny. So let's get some comedy in there.
Yeah.
So, but it was a work in progress because it started off, if you were to go back and listen to the very early ones, it was much more very straight ahead trivia.
Uh-huh.
And then it opened up more and more and more to be like, oh, let's joke around more. We had to make the games easier quite often because people, even the very brightest of the bright, were like, I can't play along. It's too hard. And we even sometimes with the contestants, we just, even though we would try to test things in the office and whatever, they would fall flat. You learn very quickly that nobody listens to the same music, and nobody's read the same books.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of just like, how do we ask questions? And so word games became a little bit more front and center of the show, but it was definitely a work in progress.
Interesting. And how did it, or did it impact how you approach comedy or particularly maybe how you approach developing a special?
I mean, maybe not so much developing a special, but I certainly had to have so much stamina for that show. And also realize, I mean, it made me better. I was always pretty good talking to a crowd, but talk about a show where you have to listen. Like, when you were said earlier, like, how do you know if it's kind of going well or whatever? And I was like, you just got to really
got to
listen.
Pick up on the vibe. Yeah.
And I really had to listen. I had to listen to the contestants. I had to listen to the room. I had to listen to the other people on stage with me, and they all took up different places in like they were not equal footing. They all had different places, and I had to ringmaster that. So that show was a puzzle for me all the time. So yeah, it was really, I thought about it. I worked on it hard because it was a hard show to do.
Yeah. I bet. I mean, like I said, it was such a well-oiled machine that I'm not surprised. And you all were, it was like firing on all cylinders. It felt very fast-paced and
very fast-paced.
Yeah. You had to really be on it. Yeah, I bet that made you super sharp at speaking quickly and having to stay
articulate
on task
too,
and articulate.
man.
Yeah.
And I just found out that it turns out because then you were working for NPR, I pronounce, 50% of words wrong.
Yeah.
So
it's so easy to do. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I had to really, it was good for acting because now I can read a line off a page quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was all kinds of different skills that you're just like, oh, and half the words I say are Canadian. I'm Canadian, right? So they would be like, no, that's how you say it in Canada. Or I would just, I would say a word and they go, what even is that? It's like you found all these discrepancies. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about like the pronunciations being so different. Like, well, I mean, I'm from the South, so there's certain words, I was doing a gala event or gala event.
See?
Depending.
There you go.
And I was saying a name and I said it was Yvonne. And being a Black Southerner, that was pronounced Yvonne.
Yeah, that's what I would say, Yvonne.
Right. But the person who won, I said Yvonne later, they were like, oh, it's funny how you pronounce my name. I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, it's Yvonne. And I was like,
oh, Yvonne. Oh, Yvonne.
All right,
Yvonne.
I guess.
Yeah. Right. That's right. Okay, they're right. But wait a second. Do you say foyer or foyer?
Oh, that's one that was for the longest time. I thought it was foyer. And then I started hearing people say foyer. And I was like, have I been wrong this whole time? But I don't know what's right.
I mean, they're both technically right. But one, it scratches like on my ear.
A foyer.
Foyer. Ugh.
Yeah, I like foyer.
Foyer.
That's the way I originally heard it. But yeah, no, that's tough. Pronunciations.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I learned so much.
That's great. Well, we've reached the end of the episode. I could talk to you forever, but
so nice.
Yeah, it's a really great, fun chat. So let's create something together. And I'm sort of interested either in your pick. You want to give advice on moving to a place like New York City? You kind of gave advice on that as is, though, with like not being a tourist. Or when it comes to developing a stand-up show and how to make it worthwhile for everyone, because you were even saying, you know, like, oh, the show was for you and your friends, and that probably helped create an audience for it. But I don't know, which topic would you rather delve into?
How to make a show good, a stand-up show good.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
I have big opinions on that.
Okay.
And I would say that sometimes what happens is because stand-up is, like a person behind a mic, you hope
Right.
that people who maybe are like, oh, we should have a stand-up at our event, or we should, blah, 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 bring in a stand-up. They do not take into consideration what makes a stand-up show successful.
Mm.
And over the years, and I even know people that have one sheets that they'll send to like a corporate place or a fundraiser, which is like, does it meet these requirements?
Yeah.
Because every time you do not give us these, it's one less way the show will be successful. Like,
Mm.
sure, we're cockroaches and you can put us in any dark corner, but it's not going to be good if it's not put together right. So, I mean, it sounds so stupid, but The Room, there's a reason comedy clubs are what they are.
Yeah.
That is like, it's almost a science. It's
Mm-hmm.
got to, I mean, I've done plenty of big vacuous 40-story spaces. It's harder. It's just going to
Yeah.
be harder unless you have 1,000 people in them, right?
Right. Right.
Unless you're filling it with bodies. But if you're in a warehouse, like even the Bell House, which is technically a warehouse,
Yeah.
that place, if you have 300 people in it, it's great. If you
Mm-hmm.
have 75 people in it, it is so hard
Yeah.
because it's just a big, high ceilinged box.
Yeah. Yeah. And then a
But
whole space that is really just for like being by the bar.
empty. Yeah.
So yeah.
So you need this, like ultimately that's why it's in basements. It's not just because of whatever, that was the other space. Low ceiling because you need the sound to bounce. Like you just need the sound to bounce. So you need low ceilinged, very dark. The audience needs to feel anonymous or else they do not laugh. They just feel too exposed. There's something very vulnerable about laughing. And to really kick back, they need darkness. So you need
Mhm.
very dark, low ceilinged, tight. Because also, people, when they are together, the laughter and the feeling of a good time is infectious. If they are too far apart, everyone feels siloed in their own experience. And
Mhm.
there is something that happens which is fascinating, which is audience dynamics, and they will become one organism very quickly if you pack them all together. Everyone has heard an applause break. I can start an applause break at any show with one clap. If I'm in the audience, I'm like, watch this, and I can start it because that's all you need. I mean, I
Yes.
will joke with someone. I go, "This is how you do an applause break. Are you ready?
I want to
Watch me."
learn this because I've tried it. There are times where I started an applause break, but there are times where I tried and I failed.
Yeah, I mean, is the audience packed in? Are you in darkness? Is it a low
Uh,
ceiling? I don't know.
yeah.
And
Oh
then you got
wow,
to
interesting.
really go for it, and it will probably take off.
Oh,
I mean, I'm
interesting.
not going to tell you it's 100%, but it's probably, I'm going to say 90.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then,
Better odds than I had.
and then people are always like, "Oh, we don't have to have any lighting." I mean, I
Ooh,
kind of you
kind
do.
of.
You need to have a place that
Hmm.
looks like it is a stage, a focused place. It sounds so simple and people do not do it. A
Right.
focused place, it's not theater in the round. You're not
Hmm.
standing in front of a bunch of cabaret tables. You're not in a dark corner. You need like something that feels like a focal point
Right.
and makes the artist, that's what I'm calling the comic right now, the artist, feel like they're different from the
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah. They're not just standing in the middle of a room awkwardly.
Or,
Like
yeah,
when,
they're just not like, I just was an audience member and now I'm a stand-up. It's like, no, because it's also a position of authority. You're
yeah.
basically telling everyone to shut up and listen to me, and I'm
Hmm.
going to tell you what to do. It's a massive, it's like a big lift.
Yeah. No, I have once, many years ago, did a birthday party that was just at someone's house. So it was like a house show sort of thing. And it wasn't bad, but it could have felt real awkward if everyone wasn't positioned the way they were, because
Yeah.
it did make the comics feel like, okay, I'm at a focal point. It spoke to what you're talking about. But otherwise, it could have felt just really awkward. And I've been
Yeah.
in those awkward situations where it's like we're standing on stairs trying to tell jokes here. This is not a
and
stage.
Everyone feels it. That's the thing. It's like that's the that's like that audience dynamic thing. That's why some people are like, oh, I hate seeing stand up because I just sit there and I feel bad for the stand up all the time. It's like, yeah, that's because you haven't been put in a situation where you can just relax and feel like it's all in someone's control and it's going to be fine.
Oh yeah, that list of are these things going to be in place is such a good idea for the DIY comedy scene. Because I've been in some situations where it's like, you don't have a mic cord that extends beyond 3 feet.
That's hard. But I mean, if they can't hear you, you're just don't even start the show. There's no point.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
There's just no point because it's all about words and it's all about delivery, right? So that's why, I mean, I've gone on stage plenty of times with a cold. I don't think with COVID, but definitely with a cold. And when your delivery is compromised because it changes your act. Like you're just not doing it as well because that's your tool, your voice and the way you deliver stuff is your tool. And so if you don't have an amplification device that can bring that out to the people that you're trying to sell the stuff on, like, again, it's like, how many different ways can you make this hard? Exactly. It's already hard.
So true. Well, there it is. Ophira, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jason.
Really, really great chat. I hope you enjoyed that. I know I certainly did. There's a ton of advice in there. So I very much appreciate her being on and sharing that with us. Don't forget, you can see her tape her special on November 9th. There are 2 tapings, 5 and 7. Links in bio for tickets. Go to her website, ophiraeisenberg.com, to keep up with her and follow her on Instagram and Threads at ophirae. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at There It Is Pod, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at There It Is. Follow me on Instagram and Threads at JasonFarPicks. Also subscribe to our comedy lifestyle newsletter and support us if you can. We have a Patreon and a PayPal. Go to thereitispod.com for newsletter and support info. Links in bio. We have another great episode for you next week. Until next time, be good to each other. It's a moral imperative.
The music for the theme song was created by Neil Brooks. The rap was written and performed by Nick Acevedo. The logo for There It Is was created by Jeff Prater. The There It Is podcast is produced by Jason Farr.